What happened when the first human lost someone they loved? No hospitals, no cemeteries, no churches, no funeral homes. Just a small group of people trying to survive another day. Then someone dies. What happens next? Do you simply leave the body behind? Do you bury them? Do you carry them with you? Or did ancient humans already believe that death wasn't really the end? The answer is far stranger than most people imagine. Because some of the oldest graves ever discovered reveal something unexpected. Our ancestors didn't always treat the dead like objects. They treated them like people who still mattered, and that changes everything. Death in the Ice Age wasn't rare. It was everywhere. Disease, starvation, predators, harsh winters, accidents during hunting. Almost every family would experience loss many times. Yet despite living in such dangerous conditions, ancient humans often spent enormous amounts of time caring for those who had died. That sounds strange. Time was survival. Every hour digging, carrying, or preparing a burial meant less time finding food, so why do it? Because humans had already developed something incredibly powerful: memory. The people who died weren't strangers. They were parents, children, friends, hunters, storytellers. Every person carried knowledge that helped the group survive. Losing someone meant losing part of the tribe itself. Some of the earliest known burials date back more than 100,000 years. Bodies weren't simply abandoned. Many were carefully placed into shallow pits. Their arms were folded, their legs positioned, almost as if they had been gently laid down to sleep. This wasn't random. It required planning. Someone had to dig. Someone had to carry the body. Someone had to say goodbye. Then archaeologists discovered something even more surprising. In several ancient graves, the dead weren't buried alone. Beside them lay stone tools, animal bones, pieces of red ochre, shell beads, even carefully crafted ornaments. Why place valuable objects into a grave? Those tools could still cut. Those beads took days to make. The ochre had to be collected from distant places. Giving them away meant sacrificing something useful. Unless the living believed the dead might still need them. No one knows exactly what ancient people believed. But these burials suggest that death had meaning far beyond survival. Perhaps they imagined another journey. Perhaps they believed the spirit continued. Or perhaps these objects were gifts from those left behind. One of the most mysterious discoveries involved flowers. In one ancient burial, scientists found traces of pollen surrounding the body. For years, many believed someone had intentionally placed flowers beside the dead. Imagine that. 30,000 years before written history, someone may have gathered flowers for a funeral, a simple act that millions of people still do today. Even though researchers continue debating whether the pollen came from flowers or burrowing animals, the possibility reveals something remarkable. The idea itself feels believable, because humans have always searched for ways to express grief. Not every ancient person was buried. Some groups practiced completely different rituals. In certain places, bodies were placed high on rocks, where birds and nature slowly returned them to the earth. Elsewhere, people may have left their dead inside caves. Some communities even revisited burial sites again and again across generations. These places became more than graves. They became memories carved into the landscape. Then there were the children. Perhaps the most heartbreaking discoveries of all. Archaeologists have uncovered tiny skeletons buried with incredible care. Some infants were wrapped, others were surrounded by beads. A few were buried with objects that could never help them survive. Which means those objects weren't practical. They were emotional. Parents who had almost nothing still chose to give something precious to a child they would never see grow up. Grief, it seems, is older than civilization. Some skeletons tell another incredible story. Scientists have found individuals who lived for years despite severe injuries. Broken bones, missing limbs, debilitating diseases. These people couldn't have survived alone. Someone fed them, protected them, carried them, sometimes for decades. And when they finally died, they received careful burials. That tells us compassion didn't suddenly appear with cities. It existed long before farming, long before kingdoms, long before history books. death also taught the living. Every burial reminded the tribe that life was fragile. Children watched. They learned who their ancestors were. They heard stories around the fire. The brave hunter, the wise elder, the woman who knew every healing plant, the child who laughed louder than anyone else. As long as someone remembers your story, part of you remained alive. This may have been the beginning of human tradition, not written history, spoken history, stories passed from one generation to the next. Some researchers think ancient burial sites even strengthened social bonds. When people gathered to mourn together, they reinforced trust. Everyone witnessed that no one would be abandoned. If you cared for others in life, they would care for you in death. That promise may have helped hold early communities together during unimaginably difficult times. Over thousands of years, burial practices became more elaborate. Some graves were covered with stones. Others included carved objects. Eventually, humans built enormous monuments for the dead. Burial mounds, stone chambers, massive tombs. But those grand structures began with something much simpler. One person refusing to leave another behind. Even our closest relatives hint at where this behavior began. Chimpanzees have been observed staying beside dead companions for hours. Elephants sometimes return to the bones of family members. They gently touch skulls and tusks with their trunks. Some whales appear to carry dead calves for days. These animals don't bury their dead like humans, but they demonstrate something familiar: loss. Humans took that emotional response further than any other known species. We transformed grief into ritual, into memory, into culture. There is another mystery hidden inside ancient graves. Many bodies were positioned facing specific directions. Some lay curled like sleeping children. Others were sprinkled with red ochre, a pigment the color of blood. Why? No one knows for certain. Perhaps red symbolized life. Perhaps rebirth. Perhaps it represented the warmth that had left the body. The truth disappeared tens of thousands of years ago. Yet every burial leaves clues. Each one is like a silent conversation between the living and the dead. And every new archaeological discovery adds another sentence. The most astonishing part isn't that ancient humans buried their dead. It's that they cared enough to stop surviving. Just long enough to remember. Think about that for a moment. Food was never guaranteed. Danger waited beyond every hill. Winter could wipe out an entire community, yet people still spent precious time digging graves, decorating bodies, comforting one another, honoring lives that had ended. That choice may reveal one of the greatest turning points in human evolution. Because civilization isn't built only by intelligence, it's built by compassion, by the decision that every person has value, even after their final breath. Today, our funerals look different. We build cemeteries, we light candles, we place flowers, we tell stories, we cry, we gather with family. Different cultures follow different traditions. But beneath every ritual lies the same ancient instinct: to remember, to honor, to say, "You mattered." And perhaps that's the greatest lesson hidden beneath the oldest graves on Earth. Long before pyramids, long before writing, long before empires, humans had already discovered something extraordinary. The way we treat the dead reveals the kind of people we are while we're still alive. And maybe that has always been what made us truly human.